This is Political Radar Pulse with Rhonda Sitnikow, where we explore the issues facing Northeast Wisconsin and beyond with insightful interviews and open discussions.
Hey, all you political junkies. Welcome to Political Radar Pulse, the best 30 minutes of unscripted and uncensored political talk you will hear all day. With episode 23, we're going to discuss if there was accountability missing in regards to Lynn Austin, who's a Green Bay citizen who received quite a bit of taxpayer funds for a historical website. And here to discuss that with me are two guests. First, Bill Meindl, who's a volunteer reporter for the website Green Bay Development News. Bill's contribution to educating and informing the public tirelessly with city and government issues is a huge gift to the community. Thank you and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Rhonda. That's very kind. Glad to be here.
My other guest today is via Skype, and it's Wendy Coriell. Wendy has done professional website design for 16 years. She's the creator of the Green Bay Sausage, which we all know and love, and owner of Wisconsin Webcraft. You may also know her and have seen her hosting the Wendy Report, but she has been on hiatus this summer because of health issues. So that hasn't been taped recently, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but we're really glad you're here with us today. So we are talking about taxpayer money that was given to Lynn Austin, who is a woman who has created a website called labay.org. And we'd like to discuss, I guess, some developments that have happened with regards to social media conversations. There's been a little bit of confusion about why the issues were raised and what people were really relating to and talking about. And I think it's important to get this story out there a little bit more on the clear side so that we know what it all means, because I think there's still a lot of questions out there in regards to the money that she was given and what it was used for. But this all began when the Mayor's Beautification Committee had created a letter and sent out some thoughts in regards to criticisms on the city's taxpayer, I guess really what they feel wasn't value in taxpayer money spent. And that's what started this whole, I guess, can of worms to open up. Do you have any thoughts on that, Bill, in regards to the Mayor's Beautification Committee?
Well, that's another topic, but that's certainly related to labay.org. That's a committee that's no longer in existence. It's been disbanded. Kind of a loose cannon that got off track. And Lynn Austin has been a principal part of that committee now for several years.
And Lynn Austin, the letter that was drafted and basically was saying, the city's abused taxpayer money according to, she spoke for the committee, correct?
She did.
That letter.
She did. Okay.
And is that the purpose of the Mayor's Beautification Committee in general? Is that, what is the purpose of that? I think people aren't really sure about that.
Well, the Mayor's Beautification Committee dates to at least 1945. Some say it's 100 years old. I'm not sure about that. But at least to 1945. And it was there created to support beautification efforts for the city of Green Bay. Litter, parks, a number of issues that they've gotten involved in over the years. But in recent times, it's just gone on into other areas that are well beyond its jurisdiction, including wanting to send a letter to the city council, reprimanding the mayor, for example, and just completely outside its jurisdiction.
So that letter was sent, was discussed. There was never really any action on that, so
no.
Nothing really happened.
Nothing really happened. They never got around to voting on whether to send a letter or not, because they spent most of their time at the meeting I was at just kind of wildly talking about a number of different issues.
And so that letter prompted, was discussed on social media and prompted, and I believe in Green Bay media as well. Was there any coverage on that?
Just on Green Bay Development News.
Okay, so there was definitely discussion. So flash forward to some very contentious, intense threads, really and truly asking for, definition of abuse of taxpayer money. That's to me, that was the narrative of the conversation, which then led to Lynn Austin being on the Mayor's Beautification Committee and a well-known critic of the mayor in the city of Green Bay. She actually ended up being the topic of discussion, and because she has received a lot of taxpayer money to create labay.org, which is supposedly a historical website. And that's what we're going to get into, because I feel like this matters. This matters a lot. What you actually hand out as taxpayer money needs to be accountable. I mean, we're talking about this all the time. We're talking about with the Northland Hotel. We're talking about it anytime there's a substantial amount of money that goes out to something via the taxpayers. It matters. So let's go through the timeline of the money, and maybe just, and the numbers that we give out are, they're estimates. They're definitely, could be more. We're not sure. But what we're going to talk about is what we know to be true today. So let's begin with, I think, the county. Was that the first allocation of money? Did it come from Brown County?
Well, the effort on labay.org dates to at least 2012. It may have been going on before then as well, but at least to 2012. That's when the Wisconsin Coastal Management Program approved a $15,000 grant for the website. And the website's about the early history, Native American and Métis history of what's now Green Bay. That's what it's devoted to, Métis being a combination of French and Native American. So that's what it was devoted to, and that's what the project is meant to explore in terms of photos, illustrations, maps, records, documents, talking about this early history of what we now call Green Bay. So it's an important part of our past. And so in 2012, the Wisconsin Coastal Management Program approved about just short of a $15,000 grant. And that was the first public money that I'm aware of that was approved for the program. That was followed 2 years later by the county, which approved a $20,000 grant. That was in 2014. And then in 2015, the city of Green Bay approved a $10,000 grant. So there's been at least $45,000 in public money used for this project. We don't know for sure what the final total is because the numbers have not been made public.
Okay, and that's all part of the accountability piece that we're talking about today. Is quite a bit of money going out for a project, and really at this point, the question remains: is this something that actually has value, or is it just a pet project that someone was really good at convincing government to give them money? So we have this issue with this money's been allotted to labay.org, but labay.org wasn't actually receiving it. The fiscal agent for labay.org became Wise Women Gathering, and it looks to be the reason for that was that labay.org was not, in compliance with their nonprofit status, correct?
Right. Their nonprofit status was revoked by the Internal Revenue Service over a 2-year period because they failed to file the necessary documentation with the IRS.
So when when these grants are out there, when the county's given money, when the city government is voting to give this money to Lynn Austin, they're giving this money to labay.org, not Wise Women Gathering.
Right. They were as you said, the fiscal agent that was handling their financial matters for the.
So there's an issue right there. None of that. I was at a lot of those meetings, as you were as well, and none of that was disclosed. So the terms were not disclosed. Typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you have a nonprofit, isn't there a board that has to oversee?
Sure.
Okay.
And Wise Women Gathering Place is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, so it is a legitimate organization in that sense to handle these kinds of funds.
So it's legitimate, and that's the truth. But why, if with that legitimacy, I wonder why that was never brought into the plea for money or the ask. Why weren't people allowed to know? The public was never aware of Wise Women Gathering. And this all came about because of these social media threads that were going on, and people were doing some investigative research, and this is what came to be true. So the question is, this clearly wasn't vetted. And why wasn't it? Why weren't these city and county government officials really looking into that? Did they know that? I mean, because when it was spoken, in committee and in the public eye, people weren't aware that that was the situation. And so she got her nonprofit status back on track after the fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what year was that? Do you know?
Oh, I'd have to double check the year.
So she was not in compliance, I think, for about 3 years. Then it came back. Right?
Right.
Okay. So now, when she was receiving the money, she was not in compliance.
Well, her fiscal agent was in compliance.
Right.
And that's what mattered in terms of receiving the money. She herself was not a legitimate nonprofit organization during that period of time.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
And I would love someone to ask her that. Because it's either very coincidental or what was the reason for that? So moving forward, we have this website that's up there, and it's being paid for with taxpayer money, and there are questions. And because of the social media threads, people started to do some digging. And they were finding things that were interesting because, her claim, Lynn Austin's claim, is that this website's being used by public schools in Green Bay. And that's quite a claim. And why are they? We weren't really sure why. And then, there are more questions as regards to the use of the website. So then we go to Wendy. Hello, Wendy.
Hello.
You obviously have a lot of experience and knowledge when it comes to creating websites, usage of websites. And so you discovered a few things. Let's go through some of those because I think it's, it all has to do with the value, the legitimacy of the website and being, given all this money. So what did you find out?
I don't even know where to start because there's so many things that are wrong with this website. And before I go any further, I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to insult the work of 939. I believe that's the company that did the site. Because some of their other work looks pretty stellar. So it's just this particular project that I'm commenting about. But to start with, there's no reason that a website like this should cost $45,000 or even $10,000. In 2012, if that's when they started the website, they could have went with a CMS like WordPress. Right now, the way it's set up, all of the documents are PDF. It's not searchable. There's no text content. And did I lose you guys?
Oh, we're
Nope, we're
listening
here.
to you. We can hear
Okay.
you. Sorry. Keep going.
I just like nobody was moving.
We're really engrossed in what you're saying.
Okay. So basically they have all these documents. They're not really sorted. They're not searchable. They're not broken down by category. And so it's just like this collection of PDF documents with no rhyme or reason, no documentation, no source as to where these documents even came from.
Which I have to say, isn't that part of being historically accurate and valuable would be to have the metadata on there?
Right. That and to be able to search it. Now, the way that something like this should have been set up is so that Lynn and whoever else is working on the documents could upload these documents, put them in categories themselves. So build the website, but as far as adding content, have more of a do-it-yourself kind of angle so that you're not, racking up all these bills. The way that it's set up now, each link that they have has to be hand-coded so that it goes to the PDF. So you're talking a Chicago developer who's probably charging upwards of $150 plus an hour, charging for adding all of these links. I don't know any other nonprofit organizations that would be able to spend this kind of money. Most nonprofits, they're going to have volunteers doing the legwork. That should have happened. But that's not the only problem with the site. When people were trying to access this, somebody had accidentally typoed the www part, which is not necessary to get to a website. Most people are just going to type lebay.org if they want to get there. But somebody had tried to do the www and typoed with an EEE. So the third level domains, so where that www should be, if you type anything other than www, it goes to a private intranet of Jesus people, which is a commune. Basically, and the web designer is part of this commune.
And this commune is located where?
I think this is in Chicago.
Okay.
So it's not even a local developer. But included on this, what should be a private intranet, is a list of all of the Jesus People members, their room numbers, their phone numbers, And as some of you have seen, you can even see what's on the menu for the commune every day.
So this
that
website, this taxpayer-paid website is not secure.
Well, I don't know if you would call it unsecure, but that's certainly not a good thing. I got a cat fly. It's certainly not a good thing to have happen. As far as whether or not it's a security risk, that would be more a question for a network administrator.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do website stuff as far as the hosting, we go through a third party. So there's very little that I would do on that end. Now, another really big problem with this website, I started digging in a little bit more this morning. And if you Google Green Bay Native American history or even Green Bay Native American documents, it does not pop on Google. I went through 5 pages, it does not pop. So part of the problem is because it's just PDF documents that can't be searched, that can't be read by the Google robots, there's no text content, so no plain text content that Google can prioritize and say, okay, this is a historical website. Here's my keywords for Native American, this, that. If you just Google for the name LeBay, what comes up in the description is actually menu items and the tagline. So if you do a Google search for LeBay, what's going to come up in the description is this: Great Lakes tribes at LeBay, period. Timeline of history, period. Natural history, period. Cultural history and religion, period. And then neighboring community, period. Unless otherwise specified, all ... So that last line was actually taken from the footer of the website. So what Google's trying to do is, where is the actual text content so that I can figure out where to place this? This site isn't getting placed at all.
So if you don't actually know about the website in general, you're not going to be able to reach it. It's not even going to appear to you at all.
You're not going to find it. So when claims are made that people in schools are using this, I don't see how, because you're not going to be able to search for it and find it. The Green Bay Native American history, it should pop with that. It should come up.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't. So
and can I just ask, so with all of the money that's been allotted to this website, all of this should be happening. Is that your opinion?
Yes. I know it was in the threads that you were talking about too, that Lynn had said that adding a search bar is very expensive. To add a search with the way that the site is designed now would be practically impossible. It would be expensive because of how everything was added. But if it was created correctly to begin with and done with like a CMS type system, the search bar would have been there already. So as things are uploaded, you just add a category to it so that it would be searchable. So the other problem is, now Bill had mentioned that this site started in 2012. We're 5 years later, and 5 years for an internet website makes a huge difference. Mm-hmm. So like 10 years ago, mainly what I did was Flash development. Now you can't even use Flash on a lot of devices, and Adobe is pretty much putting the axe on it. So when you're talking about a website, technology changes. We're already up to HTML5 now. So 2012, I think we're still 4. So there's a lot of things that change. One thing would be in 2012, a responsive website, in other words, so that it shows good on a phone as well as a computer screen. That wasn't as big of a thing. But fast forward to 2015, if you weren't developing a site in a responsive way so that it works on a phone, it's already outdated. So they're throwing all this money out there, not even thinking about the future of maintaining this website and changing it, changing the code or changing whatever so that it's still relevant to use as time moves on. Lynn had made the comment is that it's kind of a historical piece of information that will always be there. It's, fast forward another 5 years, that site's probably going to be completely unusable at all.
So the sustainable piece of it, the taxpayer money that went out the door for Lynn Austin's website that's not a sustainable product that the taxpayers received.
That's
right?
Correct.
Is that fair?
Correct.
Let me just, if I could just clarify, the website, the first public money for the website was approved in 2012, and it was designed to be a 3-year project. So that's whether work had started before 2012 or not on it or not, I don't know, but the first public funding was in 2012. It certainly was underway by 2015, which is when the city of Green Bay put in its donation for the project. So it was meant to be a 3-year project.
Okay, and then it was, so really, maybe this is really on the city of Green Bay. The city of Green Bay clearly did not vet the money that they let walk out the door at that point, because they would have known at that time then it was a 3-year project.
They had in their professional service contract with Lynn Austin some deliverables that had to be delivered in terms of being able to measure progress on the project. And those deliverables the city considered to be delivered.
Okay, isn't that interesting? Because if I was a city council member, I would look at the fact that not one local historian actually endorsed Lynn's work on that website. Not one. I would also look to the fact that she has created a situation with local historians where she wanted to take artifacts from the library home. And that just doesn't happen, that you can do that. That's not the process. It's not a circulating collection of artifacts.
There is some support for the project from like the Milwaukee Public Museum, but in terms of local Green Bay support, the Brown County Historical Society, the Area Research Center at the Coffrin Library at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, I believe the Brown County Library Local History Department, and I believe the Neville Public Museum have not been, should we say, particularly supportive of the project. So it's clear, I did support the project. I spoke in favor of it back when it came before the city in 2015, because I felt this is an underserved part of local history, the early Native American history, if you will, of Green Bay. And this was an effort to explore that and to make it more accessible. And so I did speak on behalf of Lynn Austin before the city council. I encouraged her to pursue the $10,000 grant with the city when she was getting some resistance to it. Again, just because I thought it was such a valid effort to pursue Native American history here in Green Bay, which is our earliest origins, of course.
And we are definitely not claiming that that is not something that's valuable, for sure, just so everyone knows that. I think really the topic again is the use of taxpayer money and the value for what we're getting. And it is very clear that the city council did not look into this before they gave the money. It was almost like, just go away. We're tired of you asking. We don't want to hear about this anymore. Here's some money. And that's not an okay way to practice local government. And that's definitely not a way to be the protector of taxpayer money at all. And I think what's even more interesting is the fact that the local historians who, have quite a bit to offer as well, they were not part of this. It's just the irony to me, and how it's, that would have been my first big red flag.
A big problem with the local history community was citing sources.
Yes.
For the information on the website.
And let's go to that again, Wendy, because that was another topic of conversation in those social media threads, as well as with, in committee meetings as well. Copyright infringement possibilities. Can you explain to people that maybe don't know technically what that looks like, the questions surrounding that?
Well, I think in the case of this particular website, you're not looking as much at copyright, and more, a lot of these things are probably in the public domain. After a certain age of any kind of document, you can use that without having to worry about copyright. The problem is, if these things aren't being cited, I don't see how it serves as an accurate historical resource. If you're writing up a school project, for example, you're going to have to explain where you got that information. And I don't know that just saying I got it from lebay.org would do it. You'd need some kind of citation where that information originally came from.
And so a child actually in the Green Bay Public School District that she's claiming is using this. I mean, we know how kids, they're better at doing this than we are. They're not going to sit there and go through 15 steps to get what they need. It's just not feasible. That's not happening.
Correct. It's very difficult to navigate. Like I said, not searchable. You were talking about how this is on the city, and it hasn't been pointed out yet, but it's my understanding that Lynn and Guy Zima have a personal friendship. So I think that needs to be addressed too, as to part of the reason why this money was just given away like this. I'm going to tell you right now, if Lynn were to come to me right now, and this was like a brand new project, aside from adding all the documents, but in such a way that somebody else could add them and put them to whatever categories, we could get this done on WordPress right now for $500 plus whatever hosting fees. So $10 a month if she's going through GoDaddy. And Zimma, of all people think that he's like the one that watches out for people's money, I guess, unless it's a personal friend, then you just throw money at whoever. So I think that that's important. I don't know that Lynn did anything wrong other than maybe not knowing what it should cost and not shopping around. But the people, definitely the alders at City Hall should have stopped it. I know more, and I believe one other person was against it. But Guy shouldn't have been fighting to give his friend money without.
Well, can I interrupt you and
oversight.
think about that? Okay. So for everything else that comes out of City Hall, there's a proposal. I mean, was there ever an official proposal given to the Green Bay City Council? This is what we're going to use the money for. This is what it's going to be allotted for. Was there ever anything like that?
As I mentioned, there was a professional services contract with the city between Wise Women Gathering Place and the city. I don't know that the council was aware of that or got into that kind of a detail. It was a $10,000 grant, which is a fairly small amount, so I don't know that the city council ever got into that kind of detail.
Well, no one's been able to say that there has been anything like that out there. So right off the bat, they're blindly really giving this money away. And again, wondering if it's go away money. So will this be done? I mean, so really what you're saying, Wendy, is that if a person today talks about libay.org, the value in that website is not there.
No,
of what
not
they're
even
looking
close.
to have. Okay, so at this point, it's just kind of an afterthought. And it's $45,000 of taxpayer money that just kept someone kind of, I guess, busy for a while. And now what? Do we expect things to change regards to that? I mean, since this all went down and conversations were happening regarding the mayor's beautification committee, and what's happened with that, there was like a change in the status of it, and then it's back to a different status. Talk about that, Bill.
The Mayor's Beautification Committee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I mentioned before, it's been disbanded by the mayor. It's not an official part of Green Bay city government. There's no ordinance or resolution supporting the establishment of that committee. It was a group of volunteers that apparently came together in 1945 for as I mentioned, the pursuit of beautification efforts in the city of Green Bay. And it's had its heydays in the past where it has gotten some accomplishment and some notoriety or publicity, if you will, in the city for what it's accomplished. But there is this dispensation or this removal of the committee does not have to go through the city council. That's the mayor does. By the committee has its own bylaws, and through those bylaws, the mayor is allowed to appoint a member of the city council to the committee. So there is a member, Barbara Dorff, Alderwoman Barbara Dorff is a member of the committee. But again, it's not an official part of city government. And it's been disbanded. It's gone way off track. I was at its meeting in September. It meets monthly, and its minutes and agendas have been published on the city's website now for some time. And the meeting in September was largely dominated by Lynn Austin, if you will. It didn't follow the agenda very closely. And it was a diatribe against the city of Green Bay, against the downtown, against City Hall, against the mayor, against the staff at City Hall. Called Green Bay, Lynn Austin called Green Bay hopeless, quote unquote. She said it's a one-trick pony with the Packers, and that's it. A number of bitter criticisms about the city.
So really, this committee has become a platform for criticism.
Exactly.
Not beautification.
Exactly.
And so then that's happened. So then, and that was a communication, or that's something that it was just done. Didn't need to go through process. The mayor just said, no, we're done. Goodbye.
And Lynn Austin wanted to send a letter to the city council to complain about the mayor. and to complain about and also she had some complaints about a development on Main Street, again, which is totally outside of the jurisdiction
Right.
of the beautification.
Well, and also for someone who's received a whole lot of taxpayer money and clearly things aren't adding up on that end, it's just kind of a, it's a little ironic. So now today we have a communication put forward at the very last council meeting from Guy Zima that he wants to have the advisory committee, which is the chairs of all of the city committees. He wants them to meet and he wants to have a conversation about, moving forward with the mayor's community. I mean, can he do anything with that?
Well, one of the things he mentions in his communication is what should be the new name of the committee. Well, I mean, they're perfectly happy to go forward on their own with another name, just without any association with the city of Green Bay. That's not a city council decision, what any future name for the committee might be, what they want to call themselves. It's up to them if they want to continue and how they want to go forward.
So really, it's just as you believe, it's making a lot of noise. What do you think about that, Wendy?
Exactly.
I think that Zima's just looking out for his friend. I mean, just like he did with giving her a lot of money without knowing the details. I think that's what it comes down to. Anything to make noise, anything to be in the news.
So this will
anything to help his friends.
This will go through kind of a cycle of attention, and then it'll, softly, quickly, quietly fade away.
The decision's been made, and the committee no longer exists. If it wants to continue, it's welcome to come up with a new name. Can't have the name mayors in it anymore, and it won't be associated with the city.
I mean, any of us could do that, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
They don't need. It's interesting. Lynn Austin, I think, likes to have formal recognition. She had mentioned at another committee meeting, but I mean, go ahead. You can. It's America. You can do what you want to.
This is a little sharp, but you see people at the national level who like to sow chaos, who like to disrupt, and I think there's that element here going on with the mayor's beautification, a way of just attacking people, attacking the city, a way of disrupting things, and having no intention of trying to work cooperatively with people.
And I agree on that. And there's also the element of, can we please do some research? City Council, talking to you. Can we actually get out there and ask more questions? Connect some dots. Start doing some work independently to make that happen so that this conversation doesn't have to be out here and making these accusations and questions. And this is all part of that chaos as well. Do your homework, vet the money that goes out the door possibly a little bit better. And it's interesting because that is what Zima says all the time. You could probably quote him in multiple city government meetings as saying, we need to vet. Well, you need to vet any money that comes out of that door.
It's not the biggest project in the world, but it's legitimate to ask questions regarding the lebay.org website. Number one, how does the website function? Its functionality, is it doing well there? That's a legitimate area of concern.
It is.
As Wendy has brought up. Also the matter of public funding. How much total in public funding was used toward that website? And should it really cost that kind of money for a website of that nature? I don't know.
And where did that money go? Did that money, if that website clearly, for all intensive purposes, you've said it doesn't, the sticker price doesn't match with the funds, is that money somewhere else?
Lynn Austin has said she doesn't have her financial records anymore, or all of the financial records. All of that seems to lie with Wise Women Gathering Place. And a lot of questions could be answered if they just came forward and said, this is how much money was raised and this is how it was spent, and get the information out there. They're under no obligation to do that, and I don't think that they will. It doesn't sound.
But are they? Because it's public money.
Well, the $45,000 is public money.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice to have some sort of line item for that.
People have asked what was the overall budget for it, and were other grants received from other organizations or agencies, and we don't know that.
Well, moral of the story, really, truly, city, county, government, people, take some time, open your packets, do your homework. That's all the time we have today. Thanks, Wendy and Bill, for coming on. For show notes, go to politicalradarpulse.com/23. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell to get notifications. For more great political content, check out Political Radar Echo. If you'd like to support the show, you can like the show on Facebook, join the Political Radar Echo community group on Facebook, and you can buy shirts and other merchandise at politicalradar.com/shop. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for watching Political Radar Pulse. To ensure that you'll never miss an episode, subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. To check out more episodes of Political Radar Pulse, visit politicalradarpulse.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter.